upon my mother's breast. I was cast upon thee from the womb. Thou art my God from my mother's belly. Be not far from me, for trouble is name, for there is none to help. Many bulls have compassed me, strong bulls of... Now he's referring to demons. Remember 1 Corinthians 2. All right? 1 Corinthians 2, what did Paul call them? He said, if the princes of this world. So at this point, he's not talking about human persons now. Demons, princes, dark princes. He refers to them here as... Now, you see, one of the interesting things about the book, about the Old Testament, you know, which, as we understand, was the main text, all right, in the early church. It was the main text that was used to preach from. All right. Now, one of the interesting things, all right, for example, in relation to the sufferings of Jesus, is that there are things you don't see. There are events that played out in the New Testament. You know, by that I mean the Gospels. All right. That, you know, that have details that are located in the Old Testament. You understand? For example, when Jesus was praying, shortly before they came to arrest him. Now, do any of the gospel tell you what he was saying? Besides, if it were possible, let this cup pass over, but not my will, but your will be done. Remember? But was that all that Jesus was saying for the length of hours that he was praying? Now it's interesting, oh God, it's interesting that this man, such as David, sought into the detail of the things that he was saying. Things that even the disciples who were there didn't see. Because you see, seeing these things had nothing to do with proximity. All right? It is on the strength of the vision that the Spirit of truth gives. So it didn't matter that they were physically there. People who had seen into the event had more detail than them that were present with Jesus when he was praying. Are we paying attention? Now, so this let's read a little bit more. Yes, 12 again. It says, many bulls have compassed me, strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round. They gaped upon me with their mouth as a ravening and a roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax, it is melted in the midst of my bowels. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaveth to my jaws. And thou hast brought me into the dust of earth. For dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierced my hand and my feet. I may tell all my bones, they look and stare upon me. They part my garment among them and cast lot upon my vesture. He said, but be not thou far from me, O Lord, O my strength. Haste thee to help me. Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog. Now you see, this is interesting. Now, and this is just one of such visions such men as David came into regarding their spiritual inquiry of salvation. You know, the Bible tells us, Peter tells us, that these prophets, that they inquired, all right? They inquired what manner of time that these words. Now that inquiry actually had to do with investigating the vision. That inquiry basically means they didn't just have visions, all right? They engaged those visions. Now that is exactly what someone like Enoch did. Now, it is one thing to have visions, all right? It is another thing to investigate the vision, to interact with the vision. You know, because you see, spiritual things are living, they are alive. Visions, for example, it's not like your natural visual experience that a person has when you watch a movie or something. Now, visual experiences that a person has of divine things, all right, is living. Now we'll explain a bit. Number one, what I mean by that is this. When a person sees in the spirit, now seeing in the spirit is so beautiful. It's unlike, seeing in the natural. All right. Now, in the natural, when you see something, all right, the things that you have seen begins and end with seeing. You understand? In other words, after the conclusion of that event, that's the end. But because of how alive spiritual things are, when you see in the spirit and the vision seems to come to conclusion, that experience is still alive. You see, meaning that you can use the gate of your memory to revisit the experience, and you will still find the event still there. Now, that's one of the reasons why such men as, see, these guys were spiritual men. Spiritual men. In spite of the fact, now, I say spiritual in the sense that they understood how spiritual things worked. That's what I mean. Not in terms of being alive unto God, all right, on account of salvation, but in terms of, understanding the reality of the spirit. They're spiritual people, all right. It didn't matter what their status in society were, all right. They were practitioners of spiritual things. Look at such a person as Abraham, for example. Abraham had an experience in Genesis chapter 12, all right. God had spoken to him in a vision. Now, 2 chapters after, when he had issue with his nephew Lot, remember, the scripture says that he went back to the place where he had had that vision. You see, now the King James says, and he called upon the Lord that had appeared unto him. Are you paying attention? Now, the way the King James put it, all right, gives it a vague interpretation. You understand? He called upon the Lord. Now, what actually happened was that Abraham came there to create ease for his heart's ability to re-engage an experience that he had had with God in that place. Now, Abraham was spiritually intelligent enough to know that I didn't just have an experience there. That experience can be re-entered into. And if I can re-enter that experience, I will find God there. Now, don't forget that Abraham was someone before he met God. He wasn't always a God man. You know what I mean by that? He was a spiritual person, all right, but within the religious practices of his land. That is, as a matter of fact, why he was given the name Abram. Abram is not what the King James tells you. Now, you know what you are told in the King James? Exalted father. Abram actually meant high priest. Are we here? Abraham was, at that time, God spoke to him to leave his father's land, was the 7 high priests. All right? The 7 high priests on behalf of his family, all right, for the deity that they said. Now, why do you think Terah followed him? It wasn't because he was Terah's best son. At that point in time, Terah had long handed over priesthood to him. That was the reason, listen carefully, that was the reason why he married his sister, Sarai, before she became Sarah. So the name he bore was Abram. Not just exalted father, but high father, which originally meant or means high priest. And it was a tradition in the family. Are we together? You look through scriptures. Remember when he was going to get a wife for his son, he sent Eliezer to go back there. All right? And they brought Rebekah. Remember? Are we together? Now, when it was time for Isaac's son, Jacob, to get a wife, Isaac sent him to go back there. And you know the story of Rachel. Are you paying attention? No, why do you think when it was time for them to leave, Leah, Rachel, their children, to leave Laban, their father, why do you think Rachel carried the gods of her father? No, why? What would make her carry her father's gods? That was the same reason why the man didn't want her to go. Rachel was the one she was the one in the line, all right, of succession to serving as priests. She had already taken the vow to priesthood. That was why Laban said no. See, all those crap is a lie. When he said no, he told what's his name, Jacob. He said no, the younger can't marry before the. It's not true. That was not why. That wasn't why. She was the one next in line. So the only thing she could do, because they understood the power of vows that they had made, in this case that she had made, hence why she felt, okay, I'm not going to stay, but I've made vows, all right, to serve this thing. So what did she have to do? She carried it. No, it wasn't because she loved the gods. It was loyalty informed by what? Consecration to priesthood. And you look at the family line. Notice she was barren. Remember, she didn't just know the difference between having delay. Hers was barrenness. Barrenness. Rebecca too was barren before God intervened. You understand? Rebecca too was practicing the religion, goat skin. You understand? Or from the goat skin